Gamorjoba guys, Gamorjoba, Georgia. I am in the center of Tbilisi. Behind me is the famous symbol of the city, the glass bridge of peace, which connects the old and new areas of the city. According to the idea of the Italian architect Luca, the Bridge of Peace symbolizes the connection between the valiant past of Georgia and its bright future. Now let's go back in time and see how I ended up in the capital of Georgia, Tbilisi. From Moscow, we took an express train to the city of Vladikavkaz, Republic of North Ossetia. On the square next to the train station, we took a shuttle bus that takes tourists across the border into Georgia. On the way to the village of Verkhny Lars, where the border crossing to Georgia is located, a huge 10-kilometer traffic jam was waiting for us. According to the forecast, it would have taken us at least 24 hours to get through the border. But for our minibus driver, who successfully managed to bypass almost the entire queue using the oncoming lane, the side of the road, and mountain trails, it was especially interesting to watch him cut in and overtake other cars, apologizing to the other drivers. He did it so well that they couldn't even be mad at him and let us go ahead. I wish I had been ashamed to film those moments. Now I regret it very much, because our driver was a very interesting man and the time on the road flew by almost imperceptibly. In the end, after losing about 6 hours at the border, we raced along the Georgian military road in the direction of Tbilisi. I should say that a year earlier, I had already driven on the Georgian military road in my own car when I traveled in Georgia for the first time. Back then, I was simply amazed by the beauty of this road, and I stopped every 10-15 minutes to take pictures, because literally around every corner, more and more stunning views were opening up. But this time, we were going too early. It was May, and the nature had not yet had a chance to wake up. There is still snow on the mountain passes, hiding green alpine meadows, and the whole sky is covered with gray clouds. Now let's use the magic of montage again and take a trip to the capital of Georgia, Tbilisi. Tbilisi is the capital and at the same time, the largest city of Georgia, located on the bank of the Kura River in the Tbilisi Hollow. Tbilisi is a bustling, cheerful, tradition-bound, and at the same time actively developing city with a population of 1.5 million people. This is what the modern capital of Georgia looks like in the eyes of travelers. Tbilisi is especially attractive because of its rich history, which is rooted in the depth of centuries. You can endlessly wander through the neighborhoods of the old part of town, breathing in the exciting aromas of national pastries and admiring the ancient architecture of these buildings. In its more than 1,500 years of existence, Tbilisi has amassed so many historical sites and cultural heritage that there is more than enough room for several regular cities. The Kura River is not only a geographic object, but also a water border which divides Tbilisi into two parts. The city is officially divided into districts. Some of them are rich in a variety of architectural monuments. It's not a popular tourist destination, and some are typical residential neighborhoods. Record-breaking number of attractions is the Old Town, which is also the historic center of the capital. Reich Park in downtown Tbilisi is the youngest and most creative park in the city. Built in 2010 on the bank of the Kura River for the Independence Day of Georgia, it immediately became popular with citizens and tourists. The park surprises with its unique architecture, contrasting strongly with the usual appearance of old urban buildings. Today, the National Park in Tbilisi is the cultural center of the city and one of its new symbols. On the bank of the river Kura in the center of the city, there is the temple Sioni. Historically, it is the main temple of Tbilisi and one of the two main temples in the Georgian Church, named after Mount Zion and consecrated in honor of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Prior to the construction of the Cathedral of the Holy Trinity, here was the seat of the Georgian Catholicos. Rustaveli Avenue is the central avenue of Tbilisi, named after medieval Georgian poet Shota Rustaveli. Its total length from Freedom Square to Rustaveli Square is about 1.5 kilometers. Avenue is a cultural artery of Tbilisi, as Nevsky Prospect for St. Petersburg. Visiting the avenue, you can feel the spirit of the city and the mentality of the citizens. Each building and sculpture are like an exposition in a museum, which tells about the history, culture, and art of Georgia. On the avenue, there are a large number of government, public, cultural, and commercial buildings, such as Liberty Square, the Old Parliament Building, the Academy of Sciences, Museum of Modern Art, the Georgian Opera and Ballet Theater, the Shota Rustaveli Theater, the National Gallery, and the National Museum of Georgia, Tbilisi Russian Drama Theater, Vorontsov Palace, Kashvedi Church, and others. Walking along Rustaveli Avenue, I accidentally came across a bohemian party and watched a free Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week's fashion show, which turned out to be the main fashion event in Russia and Eastern Europe. The Park Reich or Narikala aerial tramway is one of the 3 aerial tramways in Tbilisi. The lower platform of the ropeway is located in the Reich Park at the entrance from Europe Square, and the upper platform is on Solalak Hill near the Narikala Fortress. The ropeway was built in 2012 and is very popular among tourists. Climbing in the cable car, you can see Tbilisi from a bird's eye view. From the glass carriage, one can get an excellent panorama of the old part of town. At the top station is an observation deck where you can see that the area of Reich Park, repeating the shape of Georgia itself on the map. From the observation deck, there is a path to the ancient Narikala Fortress and the 20-meter statue of Mother Kartli, or Mother Georgia. This grandiose monument is considered one of the main symbols of Tbilisi. After a hearty lunch at a Khinkali house in the center of Tbilisi on Shota Rustaveli Street, I climbed a hill in the old city overlooking the Kura River to admire the medieval Narikala Fortress. The ruins of the ancient citadel are one of the main attractions of the Georgian capital, part of the architectural ensemble of Old Tiflis. Narikala Fortress proudly towers over the city and is an ancient monument of the history of the region. There is no exact data on the date of construction of the fortress, but the first references in chronicles are dated to the end of the I-Voice century. During its existence, the citadel has changed several names, the first of which was Shuris, Chika, which in Arabic means enviable fortress. From the moment of its construction until today, the walls of Narikala Fortress impress with their impregnability and grandeur. After walking around Tbilisi to my heart's content and getting tired of filming, I decided to spend the evening in the famous Sulfur baths in Georgia to rest and replenish my energy. In addition to that, the Sulfur baths are one of the most popular attractions in Tbilisi. Abanotubani is a historic district in the center of Tbilisi, famous for its complex of bathhouses standing on natural sulfur springs. Built at different times, today's bathhouses form a separate quarter of the city, which is a popular place among city residents and many tourists. The sulfur baths of Abanotubani are located in the historic center of the Georgian capital, on the very spot where the legendary King Gorgasal founded the city 1,500 years ago. Underground springs feed the pools of the thermal baths. The ancient complex of baths at the foot of the ancient fortress of Narikala attracts many tourists, and locals have been going to the sulfurous steam rooms since ancient times to meet with friends at the pools, discuss the news, and just relax at the end of the day. The classical Georgian baths are reminiscent of the ancient Roman thermae by their layout of the interior and spirit. They are used not only for bathing, but also for intimate conversations with close friends. In the spacious vaulted halls decorated with mosaics, there are hot and cold pools, steam rooms, and relaxation rooms serving snacks and drinks. In the traditions of the national bathing culture, there are indispensable procedures: wellness massage, rubbing the body with a stiff woolen glove, contrast shower. Well friends, while I'm enjoying the Sulfur Springs, subscribe to the channel, like and share this video with your friends. If you want, you can help me by donating to shoot new episodes. All the links are in the description of the video. Good morning, my friends. I arrived here last night from Tbilisi with plans to visit a nature park, drink mineral water, and swim in the healing sulfur baths. However, the weather insidiously interfered with my plans, and my bathing had to be postponed, as it was pouring rain all evening. But I still managed to take pictures of the nature park. Now I will go on a tour with a local guide to the amazing places in this region of Georgia. We will drive through beautiful mountain gorges, see ancient monasteries lost in the mountains, visit majestic medieval fortresses, and explore an ancient cave city carved into the rocks. Borjomi is a famous resort city located in southwestern Georgia, in the gorge of the same name, between the Vakan and Trialeti mountain ranges in the Samtskhe-Javaketi region. The name Borjomi means fortress or wall in Georgian. The city stretches on both sides of the river Kura and stretches along the coast for about 5 kilometers. Due to the fact that the area is surrounded by mountain ranges and forests, the resort has a moderate, comfortable climate and very little precipitation throughout the year, but it rained heavily on my visit. Borjomi sightseeing map includes almost 200 cultural heritage sites. The most famous among them are the Gogia Fortress, the Romanov family residence, Lakani Village, the City Park, the local history museum, and Javari Church. The resort Borjomi owes its development to the royal Romanov family, which in the 19th century arranged here the Caucasian residence. It was under the Tsar that the very spring with the label of the mineral water Borjomi was discovered. The park stretches along the river and has only one main avenue with a pavilion. It is this place on the map designated as Source, although there are about 20 wells in the national park. In the depths of the park is a popular tourist method, sulfur baths. The road to them goes through the woods, along the river, along an unpaved road, which turned into a muddy mess in the rain, and I decided not to go there, especially since I had already taken a sulfur bath in Tbilisi. Borjomi is a resort in Khertvisi, a province in eastern Georgia. The city is famous for its mineral water, Borjomi, which occupies the first position in exports in Georgia. Borjomi mineral water is popular in the former Soviet Union. On June 22, 2005, Georgia announced Borjomi and Bakuriani as contenders to host the 2014 Winter Olympics, but the bid to host the Games was not approved. The history of the Borjomi Gorge is directly related to the mineral waters. Probably even without the mineral springs, Borjomi would be an excellent resort place due to its wonderful nature and unique healing climate. But it is thanks to the mineral water of Borjomi that it became world famous. Archaeologists believe that the springs were known even in ancient times. This is evidenced by the 7 stone baths, found at the beginning of 20th century, dating back to the beginning of the first millennium AD. Apparently at that time, the water was used for bathing and not for drinking. Then the springs have been forgotten for a long time again, and the place where they are located, abandoned. The second life to the springs was given by military men. In 1829, Kherson Grenadier Regiment was quartered in Borjomi. Once the soldiers found a spring in the forest, on the right bank of the river Borjomi, which looked like a pit, filled with warm water with a pungent smell. The colonel became interested and ordered to clear the spring and bring water in bottles to the regiment. By 1841, the water became so famous that the governor of the Tsar in Caucasus brought his sick daughter to be treated in Borjomi. In 1850, the mineral water park was laid out in Borjomi, and in 1854, the construction of the first bottling plant began. The factory works till the 50s of the 20th century, regularly filling Borjomi, which by that moment is well known through the whole world. My friends, let me remind you that my path now lies from the city of Borjomi to the cave city of Vardzia. However, there are many more interesting places along the way, which are definitely worth a visit. And now I stopped at the Green Monastery. The monastery is also famous for its 7 springs. Believers believe that the holy water flows in them. According to legend, to heal, you need to drink water from all these springs. But not only the water, but also brown stones lying at the bottom of the river cause interest. One of them was fished out of the reservoir and placed in the church for display. It is noteworthy that the stones in the river retain their color regardless of the time of year or water temperature. The monks consider this a miracle, as any paint fades over time under the influence of direct sunlight or the constant flow of water. Local legend attributes this to the fact that the stones have absorbed the blood of martyrs who gave their lives for their faith. When people first heard that these stones were covered in blood, they began to take them home, thinking they brought good luck and grace. The Green Monastery is one of the oldest male monasteries on the territory of Georgia. Today, not all the monastery buildings have survived, but those that have survived to this day are a living testimony to its long history. According to experts and historians, the monastery complex was dedicated to the heavenly patron saint of Georgia, George the Victorious. Today, it is one of the most revered holy places in the whole of Georgia. Pilgrims come here not only from all over the country, but also from other, sometimes very distant lands. We continue our way along the Borjomi Gorge, which is especially popular with tourists. The gorge has a unique natural beauty. Borjomi Canyon stretches along the banks of the Kura River for 60 kilometers, among slopes of Liksky, Trialetsky, Adzer Imeretinsky mountain ranges, which relative height reaches 1.5 kilometers. The gorge near the town of Borjomi has a canyon-like shape and was formed as a result of the wedging of the Bakuriani lava flow. The Borjomi Canyon possesses a unique beauty, which is conditioned by the diversity of its nature. The world-famous Bakuriani ski resort is located in the Borjomi Gorge. On the road from Borjomi to Vardzia, in the town of Akhaltsika, is the medieval fortress of Rabat. The fortress is a complex of buildings of the 16th to 18th centuries. The construction of the fortress started at the turn of the 16th to 17th centuries by the Jacale rulers of Meskia, who adopted Islam. The city of Akhaltsika, Lomnia, was taken by the Ottoman troops in 1578, and half a century later became the center of the Akhaltsika Pashalika. During the mentioned war with the Turks in August of 1828, the great battle between the Russian army under the command of General Paskovich with 9,000 men and a 30,000 Turkish army under the command of Kios Magomet Pasha took place at the walls of Akhaltsike. The Turkish troops were defeated and retreated, after which the fortress was occupied by Russian troops. In February 1829, the Turkish troops tried to take back the fortress. The defense of the fortress of Akhaltsike, led by General Muravyov, lasted from February 20th to March 4th, 1829. After repulsing the first attack, the garrison held out for 12 days until the approach of reinforcements, which forced the Turks to retreat. In May 2011, began reconstruction of the fortress Rabat, which was accompanied by the restoration and completion of many buildings, destroyed in times immemorial. The Georgian government allocated 34 million GEL from the state budget for this purpose. Within the project, on the territory of the fortress, were renovated Ahmediya Mosque, the minaret of the mosque, madrasa, Jacale Castle, baths, citadel, walls of the fortress, and the Orthodox Church. A tunnel leading to the Potskovi River was also restored. 2 main streets of the fortress were also repaired. The paving was arranged, and the facades and roofs of buildings were restored. Akhaltsike Fortress, with an area of 7 hectares, is divided into 2 parts: upper, historical, and lower, modern. In the upper part, there are Historical Museum of Samtske Javaketi region, which is located in a family castle, Jacale, Haji Ahmed Pasha Mosque, Ahmediye, Madrasa, Pasha's Burial Vault, Orthodox Church of the 9th century, Citadel and Amphitheater. In the lower part of the fortress, there are mainly service facilities for tourists: a hotel, restaurant, 2 cafe bars, wine cellar, brand stores, and the House of Marriage. To help tourists, there is an information center, where visitors to the fortress are offered brochures and guidebooks in Georgian, English, and Russian. In the end, we can say that the fortress of Rabat and Khertvisi looks grandiose, and it is certainly worth visiting. However, personally, I like the monuments of history and culture, which have reached us in their original form, as they feel the spirit of history in its own unique atmosphere, which is lost in those monuments that have been restored or rebuilt and regularly visited by tourists in large numbers. On the road to Vardzia, at the confluence of 2 rivers, the Paravani and Kura, there's another fortress, Khertvisi. Khertvisi Fortress is one of the oldest and best-preserved fortresses of the Georgian Middle Ages. It is located in the Samtska-Javakheti region, in southern Georgia. Chronicler Leonti Muravelli mentions Khertvisi as one of the first cities in Georgia in connection with the campaigns of Alexander the Great in the 4th century BC. Khertvisi's development was facilitated by its favorable location on the trade route along the Kura River to the seashore, as well as to the territories of Armenia and Turkey. Rulers had to establish and maintain outposts to ensure their own safety and control over crossroads, and in case of danger to have a reliable place to hide. During the early Middle Ages, the city fell into decline, and only in the 10th-11th centuries, a newly rebuilt fortress grew to the size of a city and became the center of the Meskheti region. The multi-tiered fortification ensemble consisted of an upper citadel and a lower citadel adjoining it from the southeast. Khertvisi is an architectural monument of Georgia. Together with the Vardzia Monastery complex, it is a candidate for the UNESCO World Heritage List. After viewing the Khertvisi fortress, we jumped on the bus and drove through the mountain gorge, enjoying the beautiful views out the window towards the main attraction, the Vardzia cave complex. Well, my friends, here we have reached the main attraction of the medieval town of Vardzia. Vardzia is a legendary cave city in Javakheti, carved in the depths of a picturesque rock rising above the Kura River. The cave monastery complex of the 12th to 13th centuries is considered an outstanding monument of medieval Georgian architecture. Vardzia was created mainly in 1156-1205 years, during the reign of George III and his daughter, Queen Tamara. Through 900 meters along the left bank of the river in a steep, tough wall of mountain Arasheti, about 600 rooms are cut out. Churches, chapels, cells, storerooms, baths, refectories. The rooms go 50 meter deep into the rock and rise to a height of 8 floors. The secret passages connecting premises, the remnants of the water supply and irrigation system were preserved. In the center of Vardzia Monastery is the main temple in honor of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin. On its walls, you can see a unique fresco paintings, including images of George III and Tamar. Caves are located in vertical tiers at an altitude of 1,300 meters above sea level, and from the observation decks offer beautiful views of the valley of the river Kura and the mountains opposite. Walking around the ancient rock city of Vardzia, you can fantasize about how it would be possible to live in these caves now and try yourself as a resident of one of the city's caves. Let me spend for you a small review of one of the caves of the Stone City. Apparently, the cave is elite because it has 2 floors. On the first floor, there is a kitchen combined with a bathroom. On the left side, there is a bathtub for washing dishes. On the right side, there is a toilet. And behind me, there are 2 designer chairs made of stone. And even further, there is a niche for storing kitchen utensils and food. On the second floor of the 2-level apartment, there is a huge living room with high vaulted ceilings and ventilation. In the center of the room is a circle for the fireplace, and to the left are two large niches for storing things and clothes. On the balcony with a gorgeous, panoramic view is located the second bathroom. Well, my friends, of course I could not show you the whole city, because it is huge and it is very tiring to walk up and down through all its tiers. But I tried to show you the most interesting things, and I think you've already made your impression of this grand stone city, a monument of medieval Georgian architecture. We say thank you to this place, and let's go further, to travel in sunny and hospitable Georgia. Well, while I'm cleaning my new apartment, you can like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, if you like this video, you can donate to me to make more movies. All the links are in the description. Hi guys! Today I am leaving the beaches of Batumi and heading to the Highland Svaneti, namely to the village of Mestia, to see the world-famous watchtowers. But first, I would like to say that Georgia is not about the sea. Of course, there is a beautiful coastline from Batumi to Poti, with pebble beaches, clear and clean water, and also the healing sands of Ureki. However, I think that Georgia is about low and high mountains, overgrown with dense vegetation or covered with snow-white snow, about magnificent gorges and grandiose canyons, mountain rivers, and waterfalls. And of course, Georgia cannot be imagined without its famous region of Kakheti, with endless vineyards and wineries. However, the real wealth of Georgia is its people. Hospitable host, kind, welcoming, sympathetic, cheerful, always ready to help. So I say thank you, friends. As I said earlier, Georgia is not only the sea, therefore. Having spent 2 days on the beach, I am going to the most remote part of Georgia, Mountainous Svaneti. But before that, having dropped in briefly in Batumi to see the seaport and stroll along the beautiful embankment of the city. Walking along the pier, I will notice that I have loved ships since childhood, probably since that very time when, as a child, I visited the Crimea, where in the city of Yalta, I saw a large cruise ship, which was called Admiral Nakimov. Then it seemed to me just a huge white rock, majestically towering over the pier. I remember that I was very envious of the people who walked along the deck and admired the views of Yalta from above. As it turned out later, I envied them in vain. The steamship soon after was wrecked and sank. 423 passengers died. It was a terrible catastrophe. But despite this, I definitely did not stop loving ships, and I did not develop a fear of sailing the seas. While the Ferris wheel car is smoothly and slowly lifting me up, I will allow myself a brief excursion into the history of the city of Batumi. The first information about Batumi is found in the works of the Greek philosopher Aristotle. In the 4th century BC, Batumi was mentioned as the Colchis city of Badus. Under the same name, the city was known to the Roman writer Pliny the Elder and the Greek geographer Flavius Arrian. And the ancient name of the city, Badus, translated from Greek, means deep. Now, Batumi is a city and port in Georgia, located on the Black Sea coast, in the Kakaberi lowland, the shape of which resembles a crescent, stretching for 7 kilometers from the north to the west of the country. Batumi is also the capital of the Autonomous Republic of Ajara. The city is the most important cultural, economic, and tourist center of Georgia. Batumi is also famous for its historical center and modern tourist area with chic skyscrapers. The decoration of the city is the Seaside Park and Boulevard, stretching for 8 kilometers along the beach and the streets adjacent to it, Ninoshvili and Rustaveli. Hello guys, This is a live broadcast from the mountain serpentine leading to the city of Zugdide. Let me remind you that I am going to the Svaneti region to see the Svan watchtowers, the country of 1,000 towers, a place where the earth meets the sky, a mountainous region with stunning nature. All this beautiful and ancient Svaneti, spread out at an altitude of 5,000 meters above sea level. Sparsely populated Svaneti is located in the hard-to-reach mountainous part of Georgia. Being surrounded on all sides by mountains, it has preserved its pristine beauty, untouched by civilization. Initially, this territory was part of the famous Kolkis, and then several times came under external rule. It was part of the Imeretian kingdom and fell under the rule of noble Georgian families. The region fell under the influence of the Russian Empire in 1833, but the freedom-loving Georgian people constantly fought against the Tsarist regime. The Svans finally freed themselves from Russian guardianship in 1905. Then in 1924, Soviet power was established in Svaneti, after which the region began to develop rapidly. However, the events of the 1990s led to serious changes for the worse. But now, the mountainous regions of Georgia are again experiencing a revival, confidently looking to the future while preserving the traditions and customs of the past. The Svaneti mountain range divides the region into two parts, Upper Svaneti and Lower Svaneti. In Upper Svaneti, the architectural and cultural monuments of the Svan people, accumulated over many centuries of existence, are concentrated. The center of Upper Svaneti is the village of Mestia. This is a small, high mountain village with a population of only 2,500 people. Instead of the Svan pronunciation, Mestia, they often pronounce Mestia. Lower Svaneti is a beautiful valley separated from the upper part by a mountain range. The main city of this region is Lenteki, with a population of about 2,000 people. The lower territory cannot boast of interesting tourist attractions, but its natural beauty is rightfully considered a real pearl of the region. Each of the tiers of the highland region appears to travelers in its own unique form. Such beauty and such an abundance of medieval cultural monuments it is difficult to find in any other country in the world. The main and most impressive attraction of the lower part of the region is the nature of the mountainous region itself. Its unique beauty makes you literally revere the incredible landscapes. Alpine plains, snow-capped mountain slopes, glaciers dazzlingly sparkling in the sun, stormy mountain rivers and waterfalls. Mountain roads often pass through tunnels cut through rock massifs, and driving along them, travelers seem to find themselves in the kingdom of the Mountain King. But, on this optimistic note, I have to interrupt my poetic story about Mountainous Svaneti because we got stuck at the place of roadworks. Live broadcast from the bus cabin. It looks like we are stuck in the mountains for a long time due to a landslide. However, sometime later, a rescue operation began, and with the help of an old truck and a bulldozer, we were pulled out of the stone captivity and continued our trip along the Serpentine, enjoying the beautiful views of Upper Svaneti. Another half hour later, we reached our destination and entered the high mountain village of Mestia. Good evening, my dear friends. I am glad to welcome you to the highland village of Mestia, which for several centuries has been the main cultural and religious center of Svaneti. In Mestia, there are several dozen medieval residential buildings with Svan watchtowers, as well as several ancient churches listed as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. At the same time, Mestia is a popular center of mountaineering and mountain tourism in Georgia. In 2010, a new ski resort was opened on the slopes of the local mountains. The symbol of Svaneti, the famous watchtowers, erected by residents near their homes and connected to them by underground passages. In the previous turbulent centuries, they sheltered from enemy raids. Stone fortifications made it possible to sit out danger, and for several months, they could save the villagers during times of internecine wars and blood feuds. Local residents sometimes conduct small tours of their towers for tourists, and I am heading to visit the owner of one such tower, which, according to him, is the highest in Mestia. Good morning, guys. Remember I told you that I was going to visit the highest watchtower in Mestia? Well, I'm already there, and the hospitable owner of the house, named Sergo, will now give me a tour. The watchtower has 3 floors, and now I'll try to climb up, along an extremely narrow and uncomfortable wooden staircase. I hope it will support me, and I won't fall down from a height of 3 meters. The staircase, I must say, is extremely unstable and wobbles a lot under me, but the owner says it is strong and should support me. And indeed, after a few minutes, I successfully climbed to the 3rd floor of the tower, and now I'll see what kind of view opens up from the loophole onto the surrounding mountain landscapes. Having descended from the tower, I wanted to talk to the owner of the house on camera, ask him about the history of the family home, about the traditions and customs of the locals, about life in Georgia in general. But the owner of the house, being a very modest person, refused to act in the film. Instead, he gave me tea with honey, and of course, he did not ask me for any money for the excursion or treats. Leaving the house, I met a funny 4-legged friend who, with all his appearance, showed a desire to keep me company on a walk, which I was very happy about. Well, I suggest you go with us on this walk and enjoy the beautiful views of the valley and the mountains of Mestia, as well as be imbued with the unforgettable atmosphere of Mountainous Svaneti. Go ahead. Well, my dear friends, alas, but all good things must come to an end. And so my journey through Georgia is also coming to an end too. This morning, I woke up very early to take another walk through the village of Mestia before leaving. Tourists and locals were still asleep, and I was able to fully enjoy the beauty of the mountain scenery in a cozy atmosphere of silence and peace. Walking along the stormy river, flowing along the village, I tried to remember and collect together all the impressions I received during my long journey through this amazing country. Now, a hearty breakfast awaits me in one of the cozy local cafes and a long road to the Black Sea, and then I will go to a new country